Spags, I really, really want to move on from week 14, but I guess we're going to talk about it some more.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell whenever you have the dumpster thumbnail up on the site, it means things are not going the best. But unfortunately, we'll have to revisit everything, including the Hunter Renfrow week of week 14. We're also going to welcome some new people to the family. We're going to do week 15 waiver wires for whoever out there needs them. And we are going to talk a little MNF. We got Cardinals, Rams tonight, as well as maybe some succession talk. So, Pete, let's hit that intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Splash Play, the fantasy football podcast for every game under the sun. And once again, I am Chris Spags, joined by your friend and mine, Peter Overzet. And Pete, you already summed it up, I think, pretty well up top. But how'd your week go?
No, man, I'm in rough shape. Yesterday was brutal for DFS. I started my Monday morning stream on mute. So I did 2 minutes on mute until I saw the chat telling me they couldn't hear me. Then I just recorded my first look show and I just skipped over wide receivers. I was all the way at the end and realized I didn't even do wide receivers. So I had to circle back to that. I got my booster shot about 2 hours ago, and I'm just starting to feel the slightest headache come on. And yeah, just eating the shit today, Spags.
I actually have my booster shot on Wednesday, and I'm doing the double booster plus flu vaccine, which I don't normally do, but apparently you have to do it for the pregnant people around you if you are, in my situation here of having a pregnant woman who's very concerned about the flu wreaking havoc in our home. So by our Thursday show, I presume I am going to be dead in the fucking water.
I just, all I heard was me saying, I will take a booster, and you saying, I want to leverage Pete's pick and get a double booster.
Yeah, the double things. But you know what? The good news, Pete, my Wi-Fi going to be such high quality after that from all the nano chips being put in me by the government. That's what we all know.
That's right. I need some of those nano chips in Karane's Wi-Fi. He's been struggling on the shows I've been doing with him recently.
Yeah, so make sure you're getting your boosters out there, too, if you want to have better internet quality for your live streams. And also make sure you're going to footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. On Friday, we had Football Outsiders spokesman Nick Ercolano on the show, plugging FO at every turn, talking about how great it was. No, Nick did a great job here, but was an FO spokesman last summer, so I will use all the leeway we can to sell some subs here down the home stretch. 99 cents a week over at footballoutsiders.com/subscribe. And it was a fun show on Friday. If you missed that one as well, the comparing fantasy players to margaritas, Pete. I think the most plus EV thing we all did collectively with our picks, so heading into the weekend.
That was very fun. And I posted on Twitter, Nick had sent me a DM of one of the comments from the video because he posted it on his channel as well. And someone had the absolute brilliant comment that he would be the yard-long margarita with the beer upside down poured into it, demonstrating his wide receiver and cornerback eligibility, margarita and beer eligibility. So that guy had the tag on that segment. But yeah, a lot of fun with Nick on Friday.
Do you know what the official legal name of that type of margarita is?
No.
A bulldog margarita. I don't know why. I just know that's a thing that's in my head somewhere for some reason.
Okay. All right. I've literally never heard that, but next time I find myself, I will flex my knowledge of that term.
That honestly could be one of those regional things too, where it's like if you go in somewhere and you're like, yeah, pop, and people call it soda there. So I don't know, but your mileage may vary. Just remember that was the thing that I remember growing up in New York. Of course, people love margaritas in New York. The home of the margarita. That's what we call it in New York City. It's a bit too early though, Pete. We got to do our week 14 recap. First of all, make sure you hit that like button and of course subscribe to Pete's channel and the Splash Play channel. Pete, dangerously close to 10,000 subs. I was hoping you were going to get there over the weekend with the Lulz live stream that I saw a little bit of, and some Ben the Better fallout as well that I was seeing on the Deposit Kingdom Discord, Pete. And I'm sure that was a fun time for you, but the Ben the Better drama, I don't know if it's fun anymore or if we should like start being actually a little bit concerned.
Yeah, I agree. It's not fun anymore. Brian middleman the 5K that Empire Maker free rolled him on his NFL parlay that hit yesterday, and then it seemed like it was going to blow up. Ben wrote legitimately a suicidal tweet, which was massively concerning. Brian got him the money. But yeah, I think I'm done giving Ben attention. It's not fun anymore when you take it to that territory.
It's weird when you go through and you're digging through stuff. And I saw our pal Justin Freeman, of course, doing a lot of great things over at Run the Sims, asking, I was away from keyboard a week and could somebody catch me up? And there was some one reply distillation that was really interesting to see. But I'm sure the Lulz show will keep up the drama there, or not keep up the drama, but keep tabs on it. And Brian, credit to Brick, of course, who's always doing the show with Pete, and one of the top DFS players, top bettors in the world, for being a good guy, even at the sake of his own content brand. I feel like that's Brick for you. That Brick is legitimately, better than I do, Pete. He's one of the good guys out there.
He's one of the good guys. And yeah, I guess it really puts it in perspective when I say I'm down bad this morning. I could have had my 5K free roll payment come in just a little later than I wanted it to, and then I would have really been down.
Who could think a payment be a PayPal, Pete? It's insanity. But let's talk Week 14 recap and Sunday Night Football, of course, where we usually start here. Aaron Rodgers, a big day there, 4 touchdowns, 341 yards. Also big wide receiver days, 10 for 121 on 13 targets, along with 2 touchdowns for Davante Adams. Allen Lazard also 6 for 75 on 7 targets with a touchdown. And A.J. Dillon, an interesting tweet that I saw today that I'm not going to source because it's been a busy morning, but A.J. Dillon out touching Aaron Jones in the second half. Pete Jones, 21.5 fantasy points, despite just 8 touches in that game. And I feel like the Packers, to me, remained as tough to unpack as ever. You could, no pun intended, but a pretty good pun. Aaron Rodgers, what the results are going to be there for him week after week. He's going to take some of those goal line carries away, turn them into touchdown passes. Davante Adams, it feels like he's been a little more hit and miss, but definitely a little more concentrated target share since Robert Tonyan's been out. But how do you approach the Packers moving forward? Because they're clearly very live for maybe even a top seed, but certainly live for a good playoff spot. Seem like they're going to have to play out the string the rest of the year. And it just seems like there's a lot to figure out with them week to week in terms of having the ceiling there, but really a questionable floor.
Yeah, divisional games are always so weird because you could see, a Bears-Packers game late in the season being like 14-10 or just going absolutely bonkers like that one did. I had gotten off a joke on Twitter, having not been watching the Packers game. I was trying to get off a Succession Packers backfield joke, not realizing when I went and actually looked at the carries that Aaron Jones only had 5 carries, was barely involved, but just was hyper efficient on his touches. Yeah, it does seem like, the flippening might be occurring as far as them preferring A.J. Dillon. And they do seem to like him later in the year too. When it gets colder out there at Lambeau, I always have in my head that game last year against the Titans. I believe it was in week 16. Where A.J. Dillon just kind of came out of nowhere after not getting used that much to have a 20-plus carry game. So maybe we're getting into that territory again where they're either being game and situation specific, or they just kind of like what A.J. Dillon gives them more now. So yeah, it's an interesting backfield. It's kind of like the Broncos backfield in that the split though is just a little bit different, with Aaron Jones more passing and A.J. Dillon on the ground. But yeah, I think they're still both viable starters though each week.
The unattributed thing that I was seeing on Twitter this morning was people talking about how A.J. Dillon's the back salting games out and how he's getting the carries when they are sort of trying to kill clock, maybe keep possession of the ball a little bit more. But the game was competitive in the second half enough where I'm not sure that theory bears out, but could be something to inform your process out there if you're trying to make some GPP stands. Maybe you get 5% A.J. Dillon if there's a week where Aaron Jones' ownership goes up. I think that's sort of the GPP approach I would take. Speaking of GPP approach, actually, let's save that one. But Tampa Bay, big game yesterday. They go 33-27 over the Bills. Josh Allen's best fantasy game of the year, puts up 42 fantasy points, 308 yards passing, 109 rushing yards. I think both the latter is a peak for the year for sure, along with a touchdown for him. Solid days across the board, Pete, for the Bucs, but I feel like the Josh Allen thing is the part that I would note here, where the Bills season is kind of falling apart at the seams, and I feel like you're going to see Josh Allen. It's certainly a matchup against Brady, the one that I talked about a lot earlier in the year as being a potential Super Bowl preview, but I feel like this is just what you get from Josh Allen down the stretch. He's going to do anything he can to win these games and maybe, I guess, prevent the Bills from not making the playoffs, which is a thing that seemed crazy after the first month of the year. But are there any takeaways from you here besides the fact that the Bucs are very good, but also maybe lack the ceilings because they have so many good guys there?
Yeah, I mean, the very, very rough week for the Bills coming off of Monday Night Football, and then their schedule is pretty nice down the stretch, other than one game where they're on the road at New England, which that will be a very fun game the day after Christmas. But they get the Panthers, the Falcons, and the Jets. So I can see them finishing the season strong. But yeah, the Josh Allen stuff is concerning. I think I saw it was a mild case of turf toe. He was in a walking boot after the game. Emmanuel Sanders also left the game with a knee injury. We've seen Gabriel Davis kind of start to come on and almost surpass Emmanuel Sanders a bit in that offense. He had 8 targets yesterday. So yeah, some stuff to monitor. I still think they'll be fine, assuming Josh Allen is fine. If they don't have Josh Allen, then they're dust. But yeah, I mean, that's a really tough playing New England, who looks awesome right now, in the Bucks, who are like, those are two of the top 3 teams for Super Bowl odds right now. So that's just a tough scheduling luck for them. I think they're going to be all right.
Swaggy P saying Josh will be fine. I tend to think he's going to push his way through it, but at a certain point, I guess if the playoff win expectancy does drop a little bit, you do see them pull the plug and go for some early Mitch Trubisky era. But I think the Bills are live enough here where Josh will probably try to play through it, even if he's not going to be fine. And I'm with you on your overall takes there too. It feels like the Bills. Our pal Arif Hassan over at The Athletic tweeted me, because ever since we talked about Gabriel Davis and me calling him shit on the show we did with Arif, apparently he's been good every week, Pete. And I don't often give the kiss of death to people and have it blow up in my face quite like this, but I'll take credit. I'm glad great Gabriel Davis is doing well. That was just the motivation he needed, was get called out on Splash Play.
I feel like we fired off so many takes on Splash Play this year that I didn't even remember you calling Gabriel Davis shit. And Lord knows I would love to remember a bad take like that to throw back in your face. So I'm glad Arif remembered.
Yeah, Arif never forgets that my important part in Gabriel Davis's growth as a man and as a football player. That's what the takeaway I'm going to take from there. Hunter Renfrow, big week, Pete. And this is one of the things with fantasy we talked about. And actually, we should talk about the other side of the equation that did not work out for my DFS lineups. But I had a ton of Hunter Renfrow. He ends up putting up 13 catches for 117 yards and a touchdown on 14 targets. Positive game script. Kansas City on their side, probably the most useless 48-9 win you can have from a fantasy perspective. Nobody cracks 20 fantasy points besides Patrick Mahomes in that spot, Pete. But I feel like the Renfrow thing is the one that we talk about a lot, where you do have no Kenyon Drake in the mix. You have no Darren Waller in the mix. Obviously, Henry Ruggs, we've talked about previously, not available and probably won't be available maybe ever again in the NFL. But the Raiders just had to throw somewhere. Hunter Renfrow's been a guy getting that target per route numbers all year long, and he continues to have the outlier days since we've seen Darren Waller go out. And I feel like this is just a lesson to take away. Positive game script, certainly a big part of it. But when you have a Hunter Renfrow at that price tag, I was surprised to see him under 15% in the Millie Maker in some of the tournaments I was in. It felt like the price was really there for a ceiling that people just seemed like they got away from. And I know Blender talked about just playing him in cash games and not playing him in GPPs, and he's about as sharp as they come.
Yeah, I didn't play him at all. I did run one Mahomes double stack that I brought back with Foster Moreau. I don't mind playing those kind of volume slot receivers when they're cheaper and or lower owned. I just thought at 6,100 and he was projecting for 20+% ownership that just seemed a little steep for me. And that's definitely on like, Hunter Renfrow, don't get me wrong. He's been very solid this year. He has probably one of the best floors for wide receivers, but this was by far the upper end of his, range as far as ceiling here. So I don't have too many regrets about it. Like I just paid a little bit up more to get Tyler Lockett in a lineup. Like those are generally the kind of the plays I'm going to make. But yeah, I can't deny that Hunter Renfrow without Darren Waller in the offense is going to earn a lot of targets.
Any reservations playing Chiefs players now that the defense is rolling? People talking about in the chat, the Chiefs are the second best defense in football in recent weeks. Pocket QB Lamar Jackson is the one saying that, so full credit to him despite his tough ankle injury this week. But I do feel like the Chiefs, maybe they are going to be the team that steamrolls some opponents down the stretch in a way that does limit production. Josh Jacobs, a guy that I also thought had a decent outlay, didn't quite get there just because of the game script. But the Chiefs too, like I don't know how you really trust Hill or Kelsey at this point. They haven't had any real outlier games in a while, and I feel like you need to kind of expect the other team to pull their weight in order for those guys to get there. And I just know that I have that faith for the Chiefs schedule moving forward.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it's gone from we all wish we had enough salary to run, Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill double stacks every week to now where even if you did have the salary, you're not that excited to do it. Kelsey back-to-back games under 30 yards. Tyreek Hill is still getting decent volume, but we just haven't seen the big plays, the over the top plays. He basically has to take like a slant to the house now to get a big play because those deep shots just aren't happening at as high of a frequency. And yeah, the defense as I don't know if I would say second best, but I mean they're good. they're one of the best defenses in football. I'll agree with that generally. And they are getting it done with the run game. They're doing longer drives where they're able to salt the clock. And they're mixing in guys like Derek Gore and, Darrell Williams still seems to catch like a sick touchdown pass every week. So yeah, it is a mess for fantasy right now. And until those price tags, I think what was Kelsey 7,400. I mean, until those price tags really come down, they're a tough click.
And I guess you won't have any choice to play them this week because they are the Thursday Night Football Showdown going against the Chargers. So talking about the schedule, and yeah, it's Mookie saying in the chat as well that game's going to be pretty damn good. I mean, it's funny because that's one game where if it were on a main slate, then maybe you could get to Hill and Kelsey a little bit more. But on Thursday Night Football, not any real edge there. And I guess we'll talk more about it on Thursday, Pete. But that one, that could be one of your famous ride or die picks where the game goes to an over 65, over 69 point total.
Yeah, I have high hopes for that one. Like I said, a divisional Thursday game, I could see just going either way, a 14-10 game or like a 45-40 game. Hopefully we get the latter. Interesting week this week too, as far as I had just done the first look show. We're obviously out of the bye weeks, but we have 2 Saturday night games. We also have Bucks Saints off the main slate, and the highest over under game right now projected for the week 15 main slate is a 47.5 point over under. The best games are Rams, Seahawks, and Lions Cardinals. So this is a pretty gross main slate with 4 island games this week. 5.
Yeah, that's that's right. I forgot the Saturday night games are coming up on us now because that is, I guess, a little bit earlier than usual relative to the previous 17-week schedule, but definitely going to be some interesting little slates. And I guess we'll have to figure out how to cover that on this show too. But one news item that could be important for the Sunday main slate, Lamar Jackson carted off this week with an ankle injury. Baltimore loses 24-22 despite 270 passing yards and a touchdown from Tyler Huntley, who also puts up 6 rushes for 45 yards instead of a couple fumbles that were pretty costly as well. Lamar, Pete, I don't know if you caught up with the news a little bit more for the Fantasy Life newsletter. I didn't see any updates, but I feel like getting carted off with an ankle sprain, maybe not the best for his hopes playing next week.
Yeah, that didn't look good. We're gonna have to wait and see on him for that. You never know if how precautionary it is versus if he's actually gonna miss some time. But yeah, I'll definitely be keeping tabs on that one.
And Huntley, I think a play that you could certainly consider in season long this week, if you are desperate at QB and can be a guy that has some upside facing the Packers, who we just talked about, just putting up a lot of points against everybody, but maybe that'll be something that comes up in the waiver wire segment coming up a bit later in the show. Deebo Samuel ended up playing, Pete, and this is one that you were, I think, a little more keen on. I thought he would sit out. I just didn't see the reason to force him back in, but he does play. A weird game again, where when Elijah Mitchell's out, he ends up being more of a running back, Deebo does, than a pass catcher. 1 target for 22 yards, does get 8 rushes for 37 yards and a TD. But George Kittle, who I believe was in your low ball line, if I'm remembering correctly, 13 catches, 151 yards, and a TD on 15 targets. Niners win 26-23 at Cincinnati. And Kittle's resurgence here, I think, coming largely because of Deebo being banged up and them just wanting to give him those carries. But it does seem like Kittle really hitting his stride down the stretch in a way that I'm ready for the bottom to fall out any week. I like George Kittle, but I just feel like if Deebo's full go, I just don't think you see these results.
Wow, I can't believe you're not taking your victory lap here on low ball. I also took the 20-point penalty on Pollard, who didn't suit up.
Did Mariota get snaps is the question I have. I know Myrick did because he got targets.
He did. Yeah, because I remember him coming in the game once. But I do a very funny clip would be me being like, I remember having my George Kittle dilemma where I was like, could he go for 40? Yes. Could he also go for 5? Certainly. I really hope it's 5. Narrator, it was the 40. Yeah, pretty nice. I mean, Davis Mills actually hurt me there pretty bad too. Let's check out yours. You did get the Mariota. McLaurin, I mean, you ran so pure on that, him leaving with a concussion.
I gave him the old Jamal Agnew treatment. Got Terry out of the game. Actually, really tough. That fall, you shouldn't even joke about it. He took a really nasty fall when he got the concussion play.
Yeah, it does, I feel like we should maybe think through the rules. And I say this as someone who has enjoyed the Mariota thing. I feel like the game now does come down to who gets
Marcus Mariota or Taysom Hill before he was actually playing.
Exactly. Okay. So we might have to rethink that just to level the playing field a bit.
Yeah, I agree. And our guy Paul was doing a great job with as our chaotic Thursday show. We were desperately looking for a viewer to play low ball with us and not ruin the show's audio quality. And Paul just played a quality lineup, played a solid lineup. I think he said he had some good ones that week too because he tagged us at a couple tweets, but not quite a low ball lineup, I would say.
No, there was a lot of good value plays for this slate in here. Jam did some nice ceiling guys as well, but we appreciate Paul coming on. And he did it flying blind. He was not in the spreadsheet, so shout out to Paul.
Other news from week 14, I feel like the Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill big days are pretty interesting, showing that they can coexist for fantasy, which is one of my long-held theories. I remember Osmo saying once on one of our shows, and it always stuck with me, that mobile QBs do tend to eliminate some of those check down plays that really can make running backs stay really important. But Kamara and Taysom Hill certainly would fit that criteria normally, but Kamara goes 27 carries, 120 rushing yards and a TD, also 4 catches for 25 yards on 5 targets. So just getting that much work, to me, I think is a lot compared to what he's seen in the past in some of the games where Taysom started. Taysom himself runs 11 times for 73 yards, picks up 2 touchdowns, including some long runs there. Also passed for 175 yards. They didn't have to do much this one, Pete, a 39 win over the Jets, but I just felt like it was reassuring to me as a guy who really doesn't play Kamara very much when Taysom Hill's been the starting QB. And maybe there's some hope for the Saints offense down the stretch, but I don't know that it comes with stacking Taysom Hill. Probably a naked Taysom and a naked Kamara, I think, actually won some tournaments.
Yeah, I did see a couple of those combos at the top of the leaderboards. I also want to just be a little careful of like being like the Saints are back, because the Jets have just been a get right spot for so many teams this year. We saw Stephon Diggs' best game was against the Jets. They patch over a lot of the bad stuff going on. So I know Karain, I read his article this weekend on NBC Sports Edge talking about Kamara and how he has been less efficient and less explosive this year. And he was basically saying, if he can't get it done against the Jets, then we really have to worry. But this matchup is so good that he should be able to get there on volume, which is exactly what happened. So yeah, I would still be excited if I was in, season long playoffs, getting to roll Kamara. And I think Taysom just, I don't know how long he can just keep ripping off, 40-yard touchdown runs, but just the fact that they continue to give him so many designed runs is pretty bullish for his fantasy value.
Yeah, from a fantasy cruncher perspective, I still don't mind giving a boost to the receivers with Taysom, but I think I'm not going to force stacks with him because I did have a couple lineups where he was stacked with a Johnson or a Callaway or somebody like that, and they were terrible. And with good reason, if you're going to have that much production going Kamara and Taysom Hill's way on the ground. But I think they're a team that don't force the stack, even a one-man stack, if you are going to play Taysom, because clearly great fantasy upside, but not enough that correlates to other plays like normally a QB would have to be valuable in a tournament. And the last news item for me, and we'll see if Pete has any others, whether they were in the Fantasy Life newsletter or elsewhere, but Melvin Gordon, 26 fantasy points, 24 carries, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns, while Javonte Williams, the chalk play that all you Chads out there are on, 21 fantasy points, 15 carries for 73 yards and a touchdown. Does also get a little bit of passing work, but not enough to beat the great Melvin Gordon, Pete. 38-10 win over Detroit. And I won't use this as a Melvin Gordon pedestal moment, him coming off of an injury. He also got hurt in that game, so that gave me some amount of sweats too. Just more the GPP play where these guys were both in a 50-50 split. They have been all year. Ended up seeing a little more touches going Gordon's way in this particular spot. But I just feel like that's the classic GPP move where if you have Javonte Williams projected around 20% ownership, I think the numbers came down a little bit on most of the sites before lock. Just play Melvin Gordon. Even if you're playing Melvin Gordon to 10%, you'd have gotten leverage on the field and had the better play. And I think that to me is the main thing, even though, yes, I feel like some pats on the back for Melvin Gordon just doing something.
You know what? I got on a bunch of Melvin Gordon because I was late swapping off of my bad teams, and I had like a bunch of Jeff Wilson teams where I didn't want to eat that chalk. So I pivoted a bunch of them to Melvin Gordon, and my lineups were so bad that even Melvin Gordon dropping like 30.
Even Melvin Gordon couldn't save you. The great.
Hey, did you just start Welcome to the Family a little
No,
earlier?
I think that's just
even Melvin Gordon gonna save you.
Even Melvin Gordon can't save you, Pete. What are you gonna do?
But yes, I do think that was like a smart spot where, I feel like I had a measured take heading into the week that I thought it would be still close to a split backfield, but I thought Javonte would be more in the 60-40. And we did come back and see it right there back at the 50-50. So whatever kind of wishes we had for, Javonte getting a little more work didn't pan out. That said, this was such an easy spot for them too. Mm-hmm. And we do see them a little bit more willing to use Javonte in the passing game, and Melvin Gordon is kind of the bruiser. So I do wonder how that shakes out in a game that's a little more competitive. And we're going to get that this week against the Bengals. I'm pretty excited for Denver Bengals. I think that could be fun. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that plays out. But yeah, right now we are just immediately back to a full-on 50-50.
Would you agree with me though that like if you saw like I'll say even we'll do the inverse, like if Melvin Gordon against the Bengals were 25% owned and Javonte were 12.5, like I would meet in the middle for both ownership projections. I just think that's been the move all year long. Not that you can always force it that way because of the way the projections work, but I just think that's the thing to me is like these guys are fundamentally the same play with how they're used, especially when it comes down to the touchdown equity that we talked about. So that, I mean, are you at least agreeing with me there that like probably go 15% each way instead of 30% 1-0 of the other?
Yeah. And I mean, we see this play out. Like another good example, I think, for a lot of this season has been like the Mike Evans, Chris Godwin ownership, where Godwin projects slightly better because he projects for a little bit more volume. And so then he's like 35% owned and Mike Evans is 10%. And it's like, when you actually kind of look at their ceiling cases, that probably should be about a 50-50 kind of exposure split. But whether through projections or because we are all youth chasers that like these young rookies, the ownership gets skewed. And he was coming off that massive game. I do think it was fine to extrapolate his role growing a little bit, Melvin Gordon coming back from injury. I don't necessarily think that was bad process.
I mean, yeah, I think that's fair. I think it's a reasonable assumption. I just think to me that you're always kind of weighing yourself against the casual players out there, just putting in a handful of lineups every week. And I know for them, they're going to think like, yeah, Javonte Williams had this great game. Melvin Gordon was out. He's been Wally pipped. And when the casual players love referencing Wally Pip. That's the main thing you need to remember. But secondarily, it's also just that like, that's the way that they think. So to me, it's like, you just go with the other guy and hope that maybe it ends up working out in your way. Obviously, it won't always be this clean of an example. But that is to me, just the way that I would like to play DFS generally. So if you could do that. And Pete, I don't know if you saw us, we've been getting more screenshots, people winning and giving us credit. And I don't want to I don't want to put the pressure on us because we just like doing silly bits that have no real relevance to real life, coming from a place of real data and research and all of that. But I don't want to be like a tout site, Pete. And I feel like we're helping people win too much now.
Yeah, you're right. We should probably get back to Welcome the Family and Nana Pete talking about players' asses.
That's actually the information that they were winning off of. It's like, wow, you guys, we welcome these guys to the family. I had 50% of them, and now they're crushing. And that's the tough part. Our victims of our own success and just the sheer knowledge we bring to every segment.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the players that Nana Pete has touted. I know she was big on Michael
Jamar
Gallup.
Chase.
Jamar Chase. Oh, you're right. They did go to grade school together.
Those supple butt cheeks that she was not big on Joe Mixon this week. She was tired of his butt cheeks.
Yeah. So maybe she is the ultimate oracle. And now we're back around to her being a gypsy, crystal ball artist.
Guys, hit the like button if you can. We appreciate it a bunch. Helps us get seen by more people. Helps Pete get closer to crushing that 10,000 subscriber threshold that I just desperately wanted to see as soon as possible. Or maybe it's just a bit, Pete, that you just get stuck on 9.99 and don't cross it by the end of the football season.
It would be a great bet. It would be a great bet. I do appreciate all your guys' support. I think we will get there within the next week.
Paul saying, get me a Nana Pete hoodie. Maybe that's the one thing you're missing here.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Maybe I should have my my designer whip something up. A little
just steal the clip art that we had on the other thumbnail. Nobody's gonna know.
that would be a good content story. How I got sued for my Nana.
How I lost my burgeoning empire by using clip art of a grandma because of a stupid bit we did on Splash Play. Get some clicks on that YouTube video though. But it's time, Pete. I guess. Well, is it time? Is it time to welcome people to the family, or do we want to do the waiver wire because you need to get where you need to get emotionally?
I always feel like we kind of undercut. I guess we undercut them going in each direction because we're often welcoming someone to the family that's also in the waiver wire. I don't care. You pick the order.
Okay, let's do welcome to the family. And speaking of, Tony in the chat saying there's some DFS community rumbling about collusion and cheating on DraftKings involving some players that we won't name here. And Pete, you're a reporter basically in the space thanks to your work on Lulz with Brick 75 that we talked about earlier in the show. So have you heard about any collusion stories? I feel like there's always been these rumors out there and people use them to justify their various losings.
Yeah, I think this got kicked up again because Empire Maker and Wiggins were talking about it. But yeah, there's a couple players, McLovin and others, who have been sitting in 3-mans and basically colluding, two of them. Ooh. To basically one of them, I believe, tries to dupe the other person, and then it just greatly increases their EV there. So lots of suggestions being thrown around as far as, banning them, trying to randomize, 3-man pairings to avoid this kind of stuff. But I know most of the sharp players, I know Brick, these guys, they don't play those 3-mans anymore because it's ripe for collusion.
Interesting. Well, I mean, something to keep in mind out there. I wouldn't be playing those 3 men anyway if it were me. If I would choose a better contest selection, can be a key part of what they're doing. But Pete, I don't know if you saw the article from last week. DraftKings is an entertainment company. They're not a gambling company. So I mean, hopefully you're getting entertainment from playing alongside those guys.
Yes. It's all about the friends we make along the way.
It's all right, Pete. Let's hit the welcome to the family intro. Welcome to the family, CD. Chepale, what balls on this guy, Amaro?
Shit, he's gonna take an eternal dirt nap any one of these days. Get out of here with this shit.
Lauren, the Ferrari, back in my garage. Welcome to the family.
I'm gonna welcome you to the family. Get in here. Get in here.
Always got to do the wave here when we doing welcome to the family, because I just want to be a part of the family with the 2 toads and Mario and Princess Peach. Didn't they adopted those 2 toads, or are they like indentured servant types?
Hey, I don't know. I'm not a fucking Mario historian over here, okay? Truthfully, I'm sick of these painful stereotypes about my culture and about my people. We have a rich history that goes beyond Mario, okay?
That's true. It is more than Mario here, which is why every week we have this celebration of Italian culture. I forgot to do my bit where I changed the lights around just... Oh, there we go. Red, white, and green. Oh, look, it's Italiano in this room, Peter, because it's time to do Welcome to the Family, where we're going to celebrate Italian culture, welcome some guys into the group, to this thing of ours that we do here on Splash Play. And I'll let you go first if you want, Petey Overs, because I do know you have some people you always want to welcome in week after week.
Yeah. And look, like, this dude I'm about to welcome to the family, he's not my type, okay? Let's just say that, all right? When I'm looking at my wide receivers, I like a 6'3", 220, runs a 4.3 speed, preferably not balding. But this dude, Hunter Renfrow, I want you to come into my home. I want you to sit down. I'm going to get you a nice plate of spaghetti, okay? And I want you to put one of the noodles in your mouth, and I'm going to put a noodle in my mouth, and Lady and the Tramp style, we're going to suck down that noodle until our lips come to the middle, and I'm going to give you the nicest little kiss, Hunter Renfrow. Welcome to the family.
Peter, have you seen the tweet from our pal Josh Norris? I think it could be worth pulling up, of A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Hunter Renfrow, 3 guys all in the same 2019 draft class. And if you search those 3 names together with photo, you should see it come up.
Okay, wow.
I guess I could link it to you on a text, but I didn't know if you have your messaging apps open. Here's the tweet as well for you, because I think it's a worthwhile one to bring to
No, I found it, dude.
Okay.
Thank you for that pro search tip. Here we go for the lulz.
There we go. You see, you got your AJ Brown, your DK Metcalf looking like a bunch of sausages tied together there with all those sinewy abs. And then you got Hunter Renfrow, who I'll say looks like Osimo.
He does look like Osimo's, and this is a painful photo for me to look at, because I was doing a Q&A, a Fantasy Life Q&A on Sunday morning, and someone asked me DK Metcalf or Hunter Renfrow. I said DK Metcalf, and now this dude is at my door trying to welcome me into his family, if you know what I mean.
I don't know. I don't follow what you mean there. What is he hitting on you? Is he trying to adopt
No,
you?
he's trying to fucking kill me.
Oh, okay. He's trying to what? I see. So we're going with the dated stereotype of murder with Italian culture.
Please don't talk to me about stereotypes, Mr. Luigi.
Speaking of, Pete, I'm also surprised that Renfrow was qualifying for you, because I thought about him too, but I was like, he's probably, Pete will go like he's been welcomed long ago, and then he would shit on me. So I think it's just funny how these things come full circle here when welcome people to family.
No. I've never, out of my goddamn lips, welcome the boy that looks like Hunter Renfrow into my family, okay? This is a first for me, and I need you to recognize it as an abnormal occurrence.
There's at least a 50% chance that my upcoming son will look something like Hunter Renfrow, depending on how the hairline split goes. Hopefully he gets more of my hairline, maybe gets some others, I don't know. But Pete, I'm going to welcome a guy to the family that this might seem counterintuitive, but I think it's an important lesson about just how the family works. I'm going to welcome in this week one Javonte Williams, a man people are touting, and you know what? He looked great this week, Pete, just like he did last week.
What?
Oh, we're shocked here. Did the hackle flying off your head and steam comes out?
I feel like I'm Bugs Bunny in a cartoon. My eyes go, ooga.
Like a sexy lady's walking by a cartoon wolf. They can't help, but their eyes start busting out, springing all over the place.
This is correct, dude. What is
But-
wrong with you, dude? Are you okay? Can I check your temperature?
I don't know how to put my forehead over there, Pete, but my temperature's feeling kind of clammy, I suppose. I did work out before the show. I got the pump personal gym right outside the studio.
Oh, dude, I've been seeing it on the Instagrams. I've been seeing this. I was like, holy cow, how many rooms does Spags have in his new basement?
Oh, yeah, you see these guns right here, huh? No spaghetti noodles over here, but Javonte Williams, here's what I like about Javonte. Sometimes in the crew, you got a capo, and it's his time in the sunlight. That's Melvin Gordon. He's a capo. He's a top earner. He's a guy you can't knock aside right now. Perhaps in the offseason when there are budget cuts and the Broncos need to save a little money, they go, hey, let's get Javonte in now. But for right now, this is Melvin Gordon's team, and Javonte knows where he falls in that pecking order. He's a little Christie on The Sopranos. He's the guy who's holding the bag for the guy, and that's what Javonte Williams' role is right now. Next year, he probably will be a #1 overall pick. This year, Pete, just the guy who's the bag boy for the king, Melvin Gordon.
All right, dude. All right. I'm proud of you, dude. It takes growth. It takes growth to welcome the more talented, the sexier, part of the backfield. I know how you like them old. I know how you like these MILFs in the backfield, but I'm telling you, I think you made a good decision welcoming this boy to the family.
MILFs more like GILFs. Grandmas I like to feed fettuccine to is what GILF stands for.
Dude, have you seen this GILF Nana Pete, dude? What I would like to do to tap that ass, dude.
Oh, she likes them just like you, fresh and with butt cheeks that could crack a walnut, Peter. So tell us who else you want to welcome to the family this week besides your other characters, I suppose.
Yeah, dude, I gotta talk about this little pipsqueak on Sunday Night Footballs. You see this Jakeem Grant, dude? He's scoring tutties, returning punts, scoring touchdowns. I mean, this guy is lightning quick. He's like the size of a cannoli, and yet he's always in the end zone. Okay, I want to take this guy to the north end. I want to get a table for two in the back, a little candlelit dinner, and say, Jakeem, welcome to the family.
I always like how in different parts of the country, and it's true of my current inhabitation here in Philadelphia, was true in New York. They all have their own version of Little Italy, their own version of Chinatown, and they all have different fun names where it's like, oh, over here it's Thai Town. I guess that's a different ethnicity, but you get what I'm going for here. Everywhere's got their own part. They say it like it's the only one that exists out there, this north end of yours, so to speak.
That's right. Don't you? You got the Fish Town now in Pennsylvania's. D-Lee, don't give us any ideas because we're sick enough to fucking charge you for this. This segment's going behind the paywall.
Put it behind the paywall and have nobody watch it. It tends to be the premium content strategy from what I know, but glad to hear it out there. And Pete, I'm going to give you one more guy too because you were so generous for what you were doing. And I'm going to welcome this guy in because I think he's really coming through in adverse situations after a tough Monday Night Football. We talked about him earlier. He's been in the family, but I'm going to welcome him one more time. Joshy Numbers, Josh Allen, threw in a little bit of everything, looking like old Josh Allen. And I think, Pete, on some level, we can all relate to a guy who is maybe phoning it in throughout portions of the year, not running as hard, trying to protect himself, trying to play it safe. The Bills don't get that luxury no more, Peter. They certainly got to be out there hustling on the corners, bringing pasta fazool to everybody out there week in, week out in the Bills Mafia. And they got to try now. And it seems like Josh Allen, much like we can all relate to, he's finally trying. And that's why I want to see. And I'm going to welcome him into the family, give him support down this home stretch.
I can get behind that. We can welcome Josh Allen. Do you want to welcome Michael Jordan to the family while you're at it? Maybe Tom Brady, any other inspired picks?
Josh Allen in such great company now. He's part of the family.
I'll tell you how to welcome a Buffalo Bills to the family, okay? You do it like this. Gabe the Babe Davis, 8 targets. I mean, this guy Emmanuel Sanders, talk about a gilf, dude, a grandma. I'd like to kick to the curb. It's time for Gabe the Babe. This guy's got a beautiful, beautiful face, a nice chin strap beard, really nice hair. Love to sit down at the table with him and pass the prosciutto around. You know what I'm saying?
My friend over at The Athletic, I won't name names. We don't name names here in this segment, but I would say was talking about it. There were some really sharp takes on the show he was doing about some guy saying Gabriel Davis is trash and deserves to be shunted to the side, Pete. But I do have to agree with you. It seems like he took those bulletin board material opportunities and really rose to the occasion. And that's what we want to see in the crew. Know when it's your time to step up. Gabriel Davis stepping up. And I think this analyst who once spoke so ill of him probably very proud on some level.
It's true. It's true. I mean, it's a lot of these players, dude. They watch these shows, dude, for motivation, and it's kind of another reason we're thinking about taking it behind the paywall. Because if we got Gabe Davis watching the show for bulletin board material, we need a cut, dude. Daddy's got to get paid. We need that cheddar.
That's like when you get meetings and then somebody in senior management says, hey, how do we get into NFTs? That's sort of what that goes like. And just a generic company, obviously, talking about that. Everybody's got to wet their beak, Peter.
This is actually a good point, and this guy was actually on my list before I got distracted. I do need to welcome one Mr. Rashad Pennies. A penny for my thoughts. I would have paid a penny to have you in my lineup yesterday, Rashad. Okay, you look good. You're a former first-round pick. I know you get hurt every other play. That's okay. You made it through one game against the Texans. I look forward to you leaving the game early against the Rams next week. But for now, come on in. I'm gonna whip you up a nice little lemonade.
You don't lemonade because it's the cost of a couple pennies. And I'd say if you didn't play Rashad Penny yesterday, seems like you're probably not 2 pence the richer, huh?
Oh, that's a good one, Spags. You want to keep going here, okay? Or do you got any more dime store jokes?
Josh Marino in the chat saying Josh Gordon got his touchdown. That was pretty dope. I agree. If anybody knows about dope, it's Josh Gordon, huh?
Please, we don't talk about drugs on this show.
Okay.
Let's save that when we go behind the paywall.
That's behind the film. Okay. And Pete, hit the outro because welcome to the family CD. Chepale, what balls on this guy, huh, Mato?
Shit, he's gonna take an eternal dirt nap any one of these days. Get out of here with this shit.
Lauren the Ferrari back in my garage. Welcome to family.
I'm gonna welcome you to the family. Get in here. Get in here.
Goodbye, Peach. Goodbye, Mario. Do you ever notice me struggling to get out of the costume in between the intros?
I didn't. I should. Do I need to now start
like
watching that?
I usually fuck up the process where like I start to take the tie off first, like no, hat first, then tie. Otherwise, I can't get it all off quickly, and then it ends up being a real struggle here that I'm glad is not captured on video.
I need to start setting up a separate screen recording for the little video boxes below the feed here.
But you know what, guys, we did it. We had welcomed some people to the family, and now we're going to welcome some people to our teams. And Pete, I'm going to ask you the question: how long do we ride out the waiver wires here? Like, how are we at the point of this being the last useful one?
I mean, I would have liked to have ended about 8 weeks ago.
We got to find a new segment then. That's the tough part.
Yes. I will say, just glancing over this week is actually a decent week for the waiver wire.
I mean, there are a few guys that are interesting out there, I suppose. So we'll do it. We'll do the waiver wire must adds for week 15 here. Hopefully,
do you know what we could start. What if we do want to replace this? We could start drafting under quick underdog playoff best ball team during this block.
Okay, I think that sounds interesting. So let's do that starting next week then.
Yeah.
Okay, so this will be the last waiver wire snake draft of the year because if you are hearing this right now, hopefully you are still live in your playoffs, but a lot of you probably aren't, and that's perfectly fine. So good job by you trying is what I will say. But Pete, we got one more waiver wire snake draft, and of course, we're going to be aided here by RotoViz's article in which the great Sam Wallace every week is compiling the players that are less around out there for you guys. Our threshold, 80% or more availability on ESPN is going to be the one. And Pete, I'll let you go first because you found this week to be so fertile.
Yeah, I will take Rashad Penny. He's available in 94.3% of leagues. He had 16 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like talent and, physical profile have never been the question for Rashad Penny. They used a first round pick on him for a reason. Still shouldn't have been drafted in the first round, regardless of how good he is, but that's a debate for the offseason. But yeah, I'm excited about Rashad Penny as long as he's healthy. I think the team definitely wants to move on from Alex Collins. They basically tried all this stuff where, they bring in Adrian Peterson. They've given us lots of hints that they aren't that excited about Alex Collins, and they keep giving Rashad Penny chances, and he looked really explosive. Again, it's similar to the Jets situation where it's like, all right, the Texans can make a lot of backfields look good, and they're going to have a much harder go of it on the road against the Rams this week. But if he does, become the 70%, 80% guy leading that backfield, I mean, he's going to be very valuable.
No, I think it's a reasonable take too. And we talked about this before, but the draft capital thing where you do invest that first round pick in Rashad Penny. And if the regime still stays there, they kind of have to prove that that was actually a pick that had some value in it. And that's where the Seahawks are in their year, as well as their trajectory, where it seems like Pete Carroll's job is hanging on by a thread. So I think it's a sound pick and everything I would look for. And I would agree, like Alex Collins, to me, like that's a guy they got literally off the trash heap. There's no attachment there. So if Penny looks like he looks yesterday, he could continue to get a big workload down the stretch, and maybe the Seahawks would be good enough to pay it off.
Go ahead. No, go.
I will take then. All right. So here's a guy, and I think this one is really speculative, but we've talked a lot about Zeke being washed up yesterday with no Tony Pollard, ends up not still having a good day. I think if the runway was there for him to have the day he needed, Corey Clement gets 13 rushes in that spot, seems to get a meaningful workload overall. And Pollard, a foot issue. I feel like for a guy like Pollard who relies so much on explosiveness, we've talked on this show and talked to the Ship Giving show as well about how Tony Pollard looks like a guy shot out of a cannon compared to Zeke that just looks like sludge leaking out of a sewage tank. And I think that's sort of where we are, where Corey Clement could actually come in, provide a spark, and seize maybe 40 to 50% of that share week to week, and maybe have those outlier games. So I'd be willing to take that stab now, Pete. I don't know if you feel the same.
Yeah, no, he was going to be on my list as well. And also just in general, I know some leagues, like in the FFPC leagues, the waivers will lock for weeks 15 through 17. So this is kind of your last chance to stockpile your bench with some stuff. And I do lean toward, these running backs in these situations. And I do think this is the time. If you've made it this far, you probably have a pretty good starting lineup. And now you're just trying to make sure you have enough upside in there if things break right. And I do think Corey Clement is a guy where it would take one injury and things could potentially break right. Do you have one more pick here?
I do have one more guy that I will offer up to the tribal board here. And I will say, I would like to take Braxton Berrios here. And I know this is not a sexy one either, but the snaps were there for him. The Jets are going to be hapless down the stretch. I do worry that you're going to see more games like the 30-9 score where they just don't get anything going, but no Corey Davis, no Elijah Moore. I think just taking a shot that the workload can go somewhere is a move that I don't mind making. And really, what's the reason to keep pushing Jamison Crowder besides him maybe auditioning for other teams this offseason? Braxton Berrios is somebody that they could keep as a cheap player who does what Jamison Crowder does, and he can also run outside a little bit more. So I don't think it's a sexy one by any stretch, Pete, but I do think Berrios could be one of those guys, just positive game scripts as well as just having nobody left in the Jets wide receiver core.
Yeah, I'm skeptical. I think if Elijah Moore, when he comes back, do we have a slate? He's out for at least 3 weeks.
He's on IR, yeah, so he's out at least 3 weeks.
Yeah, I guess this offense is just so broken right now. I don't hate it as like a pure PPR play. I mean, I do hate it, but I feel like saying things like I don't hate it is something that I should say.
The poor man's Hunter Renfrow is what they're calling Braxton Berrios. The homeless man's Hunter Renfrow.
Oh my God. On going back to my handcuff running back stash stuff. I'll go at the turn here with two more. One is Samaje Perine. Joe Mixon now is coming off a pretty rough stretch. He had like 3 straight weeks over 27 points, and now he's had 2 weeks under, I believe it was 11 points. And he does really get game scripted out. And they're using Perine in the passing game a decent bit. And Perine looks like fairly explosive. So Perine is that perfect kind of handcuff that you're looking for, in that he's getting a little bit of work now. And if Mixon went down, as we saw last year, I believe it was week 16 or 17 last year, where Perine had that massive game filling in for Joe Mixon. So he's the exact kind of guy I want to stash. I will do, I'll do a quarterback here, and I will do the speculative ad of Tyler Huntley. I know that the Ravens are saying that, Lamar should be fine, but I think early on in the week, there's not much opportunity cost. And in the same way, we've been taking stabs on Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Taysom Hill, trying to, unlock some of this rushing upside. I was pretty impressed with Huntley. He had that highlight move where he made multiple guys miss, but then he was able to get the ball to Andrews and Bateman, and he looked pretty good to me. So yeah, if I was, hard pressed for a quarterback, Huntley would be a guy I would definitely be interested in taking a stab on.
I feel like the Ravens backups the last 2 years, like McSorley wasn't that bad either. And like, I was kind of surprised they went Huntley's way, but you could see when he's out there, what he looks a lot like though? He looks like Tyrod Taylor from like 5 years ago, just like a guy who's like pretty good and maybe would be good. And then somebody else will pay him and then he won't be good. But I agree with you. Like, I like Huntley, and he can run and he's passing and seems to pass more than Lamar does.
Yeah. He was dealing yesterday. He had a good connection with Bateman.
Yeah, for a guy to not have practice. And then I think too that you could be right too about Bateman kind of rising with the tide there. I feel like the QB who's the backup getting a little more run with the rookie who wasn't running with the first team enough is always a connection that can pay off. Not always, but can pay off enough times to feel like always. I think that could be something that the Huntley Bateman stacks could be appealing. I will take a guy that I do like the Browns schedule heading down the stretch. I do think there could be a shot here for him to score some more points, but Donovan Peoples-Jones available in 91% of leagues. There's nobody else there. Obviously, we will get David Njoku back at some point off the COVID list. You'll get Harrison Bryant back. And Austin Hooper had a solid day at tight end there. It was actually one of a few highlights of my week along with Hunter Renfrow. But I do think Donovan Peoples-Jones, the big playability's there, and the Browns schedule down the home stretch of the year, Raiders, Packers, Steelers, Bengals, all games that are kind of winnable. The Browns still in the playoff hunt, still a team that people think might win the Super Bowl based on the odds, which is kind of crazy to me. But I do think that has to come with Peoples-Jones being competent. So he just shouldn't be 91% available. That's like a huge number.
Yeah, he looked solid yesterday. I think he's the kind of guy if you're desperate, where I would rather take the upside swing on a DPJ than I would Barrios, just knowing DPJ can get loose for a 70-yard touchdown.
And speaking of upside, a guy who's proven that in the Jaguars' investment in a youth movement that he can pay off as a wide receiver. Laquan Treadwell, available in 99% of leagues. He's not, actually, I think he was the one that tripped over Laviska Shenault on that one botched route. But the Jaguars are playing for something here. Like Urban Meyer is holding this team together by a thread. There's reports of him calling all his coaching staff losers, which Pete and I do to each other as friends. That's totally fine. But I do think when you're doing it to your coaching staff and questioning their resume, not the best look. Laquan Treadwell running the most snaps week after week at wide receiver. Marvin Jones feels like a guy that could get shut down. Also was in the negative ire of Urban Meyers, according to some reports. And we've seen that nobody else, Pete, wants to step up the Jaguars receiving corps. So why not go Laquan Treadwell's way? Apparently 4 receptions and 50 receiving yards in his last 3 games.
Yeah, he's been their, I would say their most consistent wide receiver. Yeah, which is just, it's so sad. I saw people winning a couple of GPPs with Treadwell as their pump play wide receiver. I ended up using Keelan Cole as my pump play in one lineup, which apparently a very bad idea. All right. How many more do I have?
You just get one more.
One more. Okay. I'm going to do a fun one because Ivan brings this up. No, where did he do it? Steven brought this up. Guessing who is the RB1 in Miami is something to watch. So basically, they have a really crazy situation right now where Philip Lindsay tested positive for COVID, and now all 3 of their backs, Lindsay, Myles Gaskin, and Ahmed, are in doubt for this week. My guy, Patrick Laird, is on the IR. God, it bums me out because Laird would have been set up for like a bell cow game here. But they did work out Lamar Miller earlier today. I just saw that tweet. So I'm going with Lamar Miller as my my last pick.
What I mean, like the logic is so sad. That's just so outrageous. Like all of it's Lamar's been up for like 5 jobs here. He's like an actor that just keeps missing out on parts.
Yeah. I mean, think about Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson's on his like 9th team this year. So why not Lamar Miller?
Why wouldn't you take, I mean, I get Duke Johnson is signed somewhere now, but like, why wouldn't you take a flyer on like one of those guys who's a little bit younger and like has the upside and maybe there's something left in there? Like, I don't get, I do think it's funny though. Like Laird probably would have gotten like 20 touches and had like just had a monster game by sheer inertia. And that is funny that he won't, I'm sorry. It's not funny. It's
no.
sad.
I mean, Justin mentions Malcolm Brown. He might come off IR. Duke Johnson is also, I believe, on the practice squad right now. So there's some guys there, but we're now getting a Jared Dokes take. So I don't know. The moral of the story is if you're in desperate need of a running back, do you know who we didn't mention? This was so weird. This guy came out of nowhere and Schefter tweeted that he was starting Craig Reynolds yesterday on the Alliance.
Yes, that was fucking weird.
We should have welcomed him to the family. That was so weird. And Swift should be back and it'll probably be rendered mute, but like, I thought they liked Godwin, Ibuki, and Jamar Jefferson. And it's just like, no, Craig Reynolds is going to lead the backfield. Like, so bizarre.
Yeah, they also had Jason Kabinda in the mix, who's like somebody that I've heard the name referenced and was like, maybe he's going to get snaps, but no, Craig Reynolds ends up getting a lion's share there. And Pete, I had some Godwin Igwebuike, and I also thought he would outscore the other running back. So that was one of my ride or die picks, by the way. I went 0 this week in our ride or die picks, so we don't even need to talk about that. Besides that, you're going to cruise to the victory of the season. But I thought Igwebuike, like, oh, cool, Jamal Williams is out. He's easily going to outscore the other running backs, and he still isn't the top Detroit running back. This guy who literally was never mentioned all year long ends up being the top running back.
I'll show you something funny here. This is one of my fantasy matchups, and this is a pure 0 RB team I had. And I was forced to start. I was like, I'll just start both Lions running backs this week, figuring I'll get like 10 points from them combined. 0.5 combined. I got cucked by Craig Reynolds.
Jamar Jefferson's been good on a per touch basis either. I don't get what happened there.
I have no idea either. I kind of want, like, I need like, I know it's a hack thing to say, but I would watch a 30 for 30 about how Craig Reynolds came to lead the backfield for the Lions in week 14.
Something with incriminating photos of Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
Be the thing. And Justin in the chat saying Duke and Doak sounds like a hell of a Hall & Oates tribute band. I agree. That's really, did you know, Pete, do you remember the Keyboard Cat song?
Yeah.
I remember it vividly, and I like mentioned to my girlfriend, like, oh, the Keyboard Cat song. She's like, what? And I was like, I don't know if it's an age thing, because she is like a little bit younger than us, but not young enough where like that song will forever be in my head because of Keyboard Cat doing his little.
That was like one of the original like memes. I mean,
yeah, that was like YouTube blowing up was Keyboard Cat.
Yeah, it was like Keyboard Cat and Charlie Bit My Finger. Like those were the ones.
What how Charlie's doing these days?
Did they say? I think they ended up selling that video as an NFT, or maybe I'm mixing it up with another viral video that.
Oh, and Mookie saying in the chat, Dan Campbell said Jamar missed practice earlier in the week. So yeah, of course that means why would you put Jamar out there then after he's looked good and been a guy that they've invested some capital in and some time in?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Football's so dumb sometimes. All right, Pete, let's do Monday Night Football. We do have a Rams-Cardinals game today. Let me pull up the matchup so I can get to the implied total, and we can burn through this real fast. We got a 24.3 point implied total for the Rams, 26.8 for the Cardinals. So maybe a surprising 2.5 point favorite. Books have the line as 51. EdgeSports.com has it as 47 with their 100,000 simulation. So maybe a little bit of value on the under, Pete. But any thoughts on the game? And if you want to give your ride or die pick as well for it, you're crushing it more than I am. We have to point out too, Nick hit 2 10-pointers. So Nick came in, put his dick right on my shoulder, and I just had to go and pet it and give it a little kiss.
What was that last part?
This is that a Pete talking. I had to put his gym blood on my shoulders, and I had to give it a little kiss.
I'm just gonna let that go. You did realize the smart thing, which is you can say those things, but you have to be in character. You can't say that.
You say that as Chris Spags. I can't be talking about Nick's dick on my shoulder and how I had to
I do want the quick recap. Give me the 10 pointers that hit.
Okay, well, let me pull it up here because I closed it in great shame. Seeing I like, again, I feel like these ride or die picks this year, it's easy to run bad on these, obviously, because we're making really outlandish picks. But I feel like a lot of my this like play has like a good portion to it, but I just go for the fucking 10-pointer and it ends up not right is how it's going. The 10 pointers that were hit, you hit 1 10-pointer, 1 3-pointer. Your 10-pointer was Taysom Hill outscoring Dak, Lamar, Russell Wilson, and Justin Herbert. So that he would have outscored Patrick Mahomes too. So I don't feel bad about that one. And then you also had Dawson Knox outscoring Rob Gronkowski. That was your 3-pointer. So
turnkey 3-pointer.
You did lose to Nick on the week because Nick hit 2 10-pointers, which included Joe Mixon under 12 points. And then he also had Davante Adams being the showdown captain, which was the case.
Yeah. Nice showing by Nick and his big penis draped over your shoulder.
And my zeros, the zeros that hurt me the most were Josh Jacobs and Hunter Renfrow outscoring all Casey skill position guys. Hunter Renfrow did. Josh Jacobs did not because he got completely game scripted out. Godwin Igwebuike outscoring all their Lions running backs. That could have been a 10-pointer. Did not, in fact, pay off. Devin Singletary was dog shit. Aaron Rodgers should have been a showdown winning captain too, 4 touchdowns. But no, fucking Davante Adams is just better. I feel like I should have caught up with you 10 times over this season, Pete, and I just cannot get there.
It's all right. I want to see if you tighten up, maybe try to, get some more 1 and 3-pointers, or if you just keep yelling it from half court.
No, I will continue YOLOing it from half court in hopes that that's what catches me up as a 10-0 week of all 10-pointers.
Yeah.
But let's do our ride or die picks for this one. Of course, a showdown winning captain is going to be the easiest move. Do we have any gentlemen's agreements on this one, Pete?
I will say this. Cooper Kupp is priced up high enough that he's not a runaway captain slam dunk.
Then I will take showdown winning captain Cooper Kupp.
All right. I will take Kyler Murray then.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable one. I feel like Michelle also right in the mix, Stafford right in the mix. To me, like those four, I mean, it's showdowns. So you can always make the case for like an Odell or one of these other, Van Jefferson even, but like those guys projection wise are so far ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, they are. It's actually interesting in the Sims when I run the custom lineups, and I'll do a showdown cram tonight and update it after inactives and all that. A lot of the top lineups have Rondale Moore as the captain. And I assume the thesis being, it allows you to fit in all the other studs. You can get in Kyler, Stafford, Michelle, Cooper Kupp, et cetera, when you run a Rondale Moore captain.
Yeah, I mean, look, I still wouldn't mind playing Odell at captain at 6,200, though. His snap count is not really taking the jump up. He's still running so much less than Kupp and Jefferson, so keep that in mind if you're planning on going heavy Odell for some reason. But should be an interesting game. Like, I feel like Monday Night Football games lately have been so shitty that this one should be like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I'm hoping. It'll be a good one.
Well, it's asking no Hopkins love. I have not had Hopkins love all year long, but he is the top projected receiver for me out of the Cardinals receivers. There's just too many of them that project pretty well. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah. Hopkins he's a tough sell right now. Very tough.
Oh, Ivan is saying Moore is 2K on the slate.
He's 2K.
Jesus, the showdown pricing has been strange all year. Like I feel like they overcompensated for some things and then left like weird little loopholes like that one where like Moore hasn't been great lately, but he shouldn't be 2K.
No, he shouldn't be. I mean, Tyler Higbee's 5K and Rondale Moore's 2K.
Yeah, Benjamin is 2,600.
Yeah.
Ben Skronoek is 1,000 flat. If you want to get real weird.
Yeah. Well, we always want to get weird on showdown. We gotta don't dupe me, bro.
All right, so make sure to go follow at Splash Play Pod. You'll find out whenever we have a show coming up, whenever we have the Ride or Die picks out on Sunday mornings, anything else, some fun clips as well coming through that margarita segment. If you didn't want to watch the whole show, that clip pretty much sold the idea pretty well for you. So go follow at Splash Play Pod. Make sure to follow at Peter Overzet, follow at Chris Spags, and of course, subscribe to Pete's channel and smash the like button here, whether you're watching on Pete's channel or the Splash Play channel. And Pete, any final plugs for you? Of course, the Showdown Cram coming up in a few hours. People should always be hanging out with you and doing that.
Yep, that's it. I'll be back around 7:40 tonight.
All right, and I'll be back on this stream here Thursday, 2:30 Eastern. We'll be back doing that one, and I'll have a fresh paint job here. As the painting is taking up a lot of noise in this house, Pete. There's a lot of banging of things. I don't know what's going on. Like, why would you have to bang things when you're painting?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what they're working with.
Maybe there's somebody putting the dick on the shoulder, and then you just got.
Did you just set yourself up for your own joke?
Yeah. Not on purpose. I just kind of discovered it as we went, as one does when a dick is on your shoulder.
That's right. In the show.
On that note, we'll catch you guys later in the week. Enjoy and tune into Pete's Showdown Cram coming up in a little bit. Bye.